Right, good evening, everybody, and welcome. Thank you. Welcome to everybody, all of you in attendance and all those online. Thank you very much for coming on this fabulous spring evening. Very good of you, despite the traffic. Very warm welcome to David, our guest speaker, who has stepped into the breach. Thank you very much, David, at short notice. Really appreciative. Thank you so much. Well, I'm not sure. So, Dr. Jerry Dolan sends his profuse apologies. He found himself double booked, so he couldn't make the date today, but he has promised that he will do the talk at a later date, and probably next spring or early next year, which is good. And I shall definitely hold him to that. His wife was my GP partner, and she's a very good friend of mine, so he will be coming. He will be coming to speak. So moving on. Just the usual housekeeping. If there's a fire alarm, we muster, go through the front door, we muster at the cafe point. Apologies, yes, quite a few apologies, I'm afraid. So we've got John Rosen, we've got Angie, our secretary, we've got Professor Avery, Marilyn Horner, Margaret Jones, David Hanna, Marion Donald, MacArthur, as well obviously as Jerry. Minutes of the last meeting, so they've been circulated, and there is a link to recording the meeting. Thank you very much, Jeff, for everything you do.
Come out in the room.
For helping us with that editing and then putting it on YouTube so we can access it. That's fantastic. Thank you. I might be biased, but I actually thought my brother's lecture was fantastic. So interesting, so informative. What he and his cross-specialty collaborators are doing at the Centre for Perioptic Care, I thought was amazing. I mean, it's very inspiring, simple stuff, but hopefully achievable and should make a real difference. So I was very proud of him. The only other thing I want to raise from the minutes of the meeting was that to thank Marilyn Horner very much indeed for going to the funeral of Dr. Chris Ryan. She represented Medcare on my behalf because I was unable to attend. So thank you, Marilyn. So upcoming social events. So 17th of May, we have part 2 of willow weaving. The next workshop is making the obelisk. And if you didn't come, please do. It was fantastic. Really, really good fun. On the 4th of June, we've got the annual quiz. David is our quiz master, as usual, so we need to get some teams in, please. Everybody, please sign up. There is a bottle of champagne for each of the winning team, each member. Already purchased, is that correct, Treasurer? Yes. On the 13th of June, 13th of June, thank you very much, Bill, is going to hold the charity golf competition at Chilwell Manor. And for those who don't play golf, there's going to be afternoon tea. So again, please sign up. And the 17th of June is going to be a day out at the Lexus Nottingham Open. And Caroline, you're sort of coordinating that, aren't you? But I think everybody just buys their own tickets and then you just meet up. Yeah. It was fun last year. Yeah, good. Just a quick report. Yes, I just wanted to inform you that we have awarded 4 medical students with elective bursaries of £500 each, and they're going to be telling us of their experiences at a later date. Certainly one of them will be able to attend the AGM. There's a picture of the willow weaving, part 1. And the other thing we did was a fabulous, last Friday, we went to the university's archives tour. Oh my goodness, it was fabulous, wasn't it? Really, really, really special. And we had a tour by the archivist, saw all the books and other artifacts and the way they're kept. Had a talk by the conservator as well, which was really interesting. And then we went to see some of the books in the reading room. And I think the oldest book was 1536, and that was written by Galen, who was physician to Marcus Aurelius. And the next oldest book was 1568, I think it was, and that was written by Hippocrates. unbelievable. And I've got a picture there of the old rules of the Magpie Society. I can't quite read the date. That was in 1884. Correct. So that was fabulous. And David, can you just spot the photograph?
Sorry?
Can you spot the photograph there? There's a rhino. So we thought that was very topical. That's why we displayed it today. And there's a picture of the old General Hospital operating theatre. So it was absolutely fascinating. And so on the back of that, I think we'd like to try and continue this on an annual basis, because it was really oversubscribed. We could only have 12 people going. And then we did wonder about, for the 200th anniversary, whether or not we ought to try and organise an exhibition of all the Magpie artefacts in the books. So watch this space. Right. Just a reminder of my charity, as ever, Doctors in Distress. And the next lecture is Jamie and Elizabeth going to talk about their experiences of working and living in New Zealand, and trying to get back to the UK to work in the NHS, which has been an interesting experience again. So, without more ado. Very handsome. I shall hand over to David. Thank you very much. For I know a rhino.
My grandchildren do have a book called I Know a Rhino, which is just absolutely fabulous kids' book. But if we could switch in the, as if by magic. Hey, okay. I call that actually just an enthusiastic amateur pontificate. So apologies to start with. So it's going to upset pretty well everyone in the audience at one time or another, because some of you have just come from really lovely photos of wildlife, and there are some photos of wildlife, but and some of you have come to learn all about camera skills and techniques. And I didn't know where to pitch this talk, so it's got a little bit of both, and probably not enough of either, or too much of one or too much of the other, depending upon your outlook on life. I know there's at least one proper photographer in the audience, and I am but an amateur, so I apologise in advance for all of that. But let's enthusiastic amateur, that covers me. So I don't want to talk very much about photographic technique, but we'll just, the very first slide there, talk about some rules of composition of a photograph, all of which are there to be broken, but you're not supposed to break the rules until you know the rules and understand them, hence my little list of them there. And instead of going through them one at a time, we'll just put up a photograph that will hopefully cover the whole lot, and then we can all go home. So it's not this is not a fabulous photograph by any means at all. Anyone know what beast that is? It's an oryx. It's an oryx. It's racing across the plains of Namibia, it's not a wonderful photograph, but it illustrates most of the points of photography, the official rules. If this was being a competition, the judges would say, "Ooh, I like that. I like that. I like that," because for one reason or another, those are the rules. The rule of thirds, if you've got an interesting thing, you don't put it in the middle of the photograph, except when you do. You put it on one of the intersections of the thirds. It's a more natural place for it to be. So you can see those green circles there show where the thirds lines intersect. And lo and behold, our oryx is centered very firmly on one of those points. The oryx is running into empty space. There's somewhere for this animal to go to. It's quite important to have a target, that somewhere for it to run freely. It feels better in the photograph. It looks wilder. It's also running. It's moving. Right, it's not static. You can see it's throwing up bits of dust from its hooves there, so it's on the move as well. And the rule of thirds doesn't just apply to the main point as well. You can notice the foreground and background are not divided down the middle of the slide. They're divided 1/3 up and 2/3 down. So that's another thing. If you put a line right across the middle of a photograph, it looks like you cut it in half. And so that's another rule of thirds thingy. All of these rules are there to be broken at regular intervals, as you will notice. There's another pair of oryxes, oryxi, I don't know, there. And they're also situated very nicely on a rule of thirds position. And you can see again the three components of the landscape are split roughly thirds as well. You get the idea. You can take it to extremes. Actually, this is a cool, trendy photographic style now. Is to have a lot of empty space. So a lot of what they call negative space, often very defocused, with your main point of your focus on the animal again as a position of third. Some people think that's a bit much, actually, but you can see it's artistically pleasant thing to do, and that's a little lizard we found in Italy, I think, last year. It's going to be very random, this, by the way. Lead-in line. So if you want somebody to like a photograph and there's something in the background you want them to look at, it's nice if they've got a line to follow visually to the thing in the background. You can see that little water course there just running back towards whatever that is in the background. Oh, zebras on the plains of Namibia again, I think. Yes, that's going to be the sort of it's not salt pans. No, it's just Namibia. And again, well, not here actually. I know I wanted to talk about various breeds of animals. So African elephants, big buggers, and quite difficult to photograph in some ways because they tend to fill your viewfinder and you just get an awful lot of brown mess. So you can photograph them from a very long way away. So that's the Okavango Delta in Botswana. And there's a lot of elephants in that photograph. There's a lot of elephants. Yeah, but you can hardly make anything out at all because they're so tiny. Then you're getting a bit closer. Here we are in the Okavango again. And you can get in and you get a feel for one of the most endangered animals on the planet. It doesn't look very endangered there, I must say, but they are endangered, and we have to look after them very much. And throwing up the dust is lovely. Gain a lead-in line into the background, and you can get closer and closer to elephants. I mean, I like getting close to stuff, not too close because obviously you don't want to get yourself in danger. But so that is a big bull elephant we came across. I think it was in Kenya. My wife's sitting at the back there. Nat, was that Kenya? It might be South Africa, actually, but look at the tusks on that. That's wonderful, isn't it? That's a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful animal. And lighting, as we'll see, is so important, particularly when taking photographs of large animals like this. Otherwise, it's over there. You can see the light picking out the wrinkles and creases in the animal's skin, and it looks lovely. And you can get baby elephants look after their babies so well, and God, we all love a baby, don't we? So baby elephants are always lovely. And there's one. Nearly being drowned by its mothers and aunts in a water pool, also in South Africa. You can get even closer to elephants, actually. And the other thing I was going to say is that I'm getting into monochrome, into black and white photography quite a bit these days. And it is, if you get the right subject, it can look great. And I really like that because that picture is all about the elephant's hide and its irregularities and the broken tusk on the right, and the fact it's looking at you as well, which is rather good too. And I do like a close-up of an animal, which is just my particular style. Don't want to get too close to elephants. I think we've got a video here. Yeah. So this is us in our last trip to Botswana. And we were just on an evening drive, and we got out. There were several of us in the Jeep. We got out of the Jeep to relieve ourselves and to have a sundown. We would have a little gin and tonic in the evening. Those of you who have been on safari will know about this. There was a low bush in front of us, and I stepped off to one side along with a couple of others to take a look at the landscape. Unbeknownst to us, there was a male teenage bull elephant close by. Took a dislike to us, and in the subsequent video my hand will pop out from the right hand side of the screen, so that's me. This is being filmed by our friend Barbara, who is standing directly behind me. Sensible woman. So here we are, and here's the elephant, and there's me, and you don't want that really. I mean, as elephants go, it's a pretty small one, but it's still big enough to leave you very squashed, and flapping its ears. And also, when it flaps its ears, it's a false charge. So elephants, male elephants particularly, make a false charge just to sort of put the wind up you a bit. And if they flap their ears, you're all right. Ha ha ha. And so on. We looked at each other for a while, and it turned around and went off. And I went and changed my trousers, and we carried on. You do not run. So you notice I've had my hand out. I was stopping everybody else from moving. You just keep still and wait. You don't want to frighten the animal in any way at all. You don't run, go back to the jeep. Stay where you are, because you're not going to beat the elephant back to the jeep. It's never going to work. And if you get on the jeep and it really doesn't like you, will have a go at the jeep, of course, isn't it? So we get very close up to animals indeed. Anyone know what that is? It's a crocodile. It's a crocodile skin. That's why we pay so much for the handbags, I suppose, isn't it? It's all rather attractive, and it's fabulous. I do like to look at animals, as from a slightly different angle and see things that you don't always see. And that's just a lovely pattern in itself. I really like that. And there's quite a long lens. And I was on a boat. I wasn't like standing next to the crocodile. That would be foolish. I did want to talk about camera blur, because you can deal with almost any problem in a photograph, as long as the components of the photograph are there. You haven't completely blown it out by overexposing it or made it too black by underexposing it. Blur is a problem. It's very difficult to deal with blur afterwards. If you've got a blurred picture, you've got a blurred picture. And there are three things that cause blurred pictures. And you've all taken blurred pictures, and God knows I've taken many, many, many blurred pictures in my time. Three things cause blur when you're taking wildlife photographs. One is the subject moving, unsurprisingly. I was just telling somebody I recently had a project where I've been photographing gravestones. Bloody marvellous. Not a single one of them moved at all. They were great. So the subject moves while you're taking the photograph, of course it'll blur. If the camera moves and the subject stays still, then you'll still get blur. And there are three things that make the camera movement much more likely to cause blur. One is if you've got the shutter open for a long time, and so there's plenty of time for the camera to move back and forth. One is if the camera is not supported anyway at all, and particularly if your hands are shaking. And the other is if you've got a really long telephoto lens, so you're looking at something a long way away, but it's really right up in your face when you look at it, and then tiny camera movements become very exaggerated. And the third thing that makes blur is if you're not focused right, and you're less likely to focus right if you're taking your picture through a wide aperture, a large hole through the lens rather than a little hole through the lens. And you're much more likely to have focusing problems if you're very close up, because then you've got a very small focusing zone. This is important because at least two of those things, wide apertures and slow shutter speed, are both the things you need when you're photographing in low light conditions, as you often are when you're photographing wildlife, particularly in Africa, because animals tend to disappear for the heat of the day and then come out in the evening and in the morning when it's cooler, and that's when they do their stuff. So that's when you go out on safari, but light is often very poor, especially in the evenings. And so you need slow shutter speeds and wide apertures to get enough light in. And if this was a technical talk, we'd be talking about film speeds and ISOs and that sort of thing, but we're not going to go there because it's not that sort of talk. Which is a pity, of course, because low light conditions make for lovely, lovely photographs. So evening light is fabulous. And somebody said photography is painting with light, and it is. And if you've got beautiful light, you'll get lovely photographs, generally speaking. And if you've got bad light, the sun's shining brightly from overhead, however good a photographer you are, you're not going to get great photographs. And you can see that line actually is very slightly blurred, because I really had to work to get that one. Yeah, you may not be able to see it back there, but the photographer's eye goes always a bit of blur on that. But the light is lovely. Look at the light shining in its eyes, gorgeous. But it was really quite dark, as was that. I know everyone likes that photograph. I thought, take it or leave it. But it's a hippo and it's doing its thing, and there's a beautiful river behind it. And that was our last trip to Botswana as well, I think. Sorry. Oh, you're right. It was the same moment, wasn't it? Yes. Oh, look. Yes. Lovely hippo. Oh, shit. Yes. Yeah. And you can, I mean, modern cameras, and we will talk about cameras, you can almost take photographs at night, actually. So this is a nighttime, pretty well a nighttime photograph, I think. Botswana, again, one of our earlier trips to Botswana. It is a wildlife photograph, they may not think it. You can see, can you see the giraffe? Yes. At the bottom, there it is. But I still love that photograph. So it's not an easy photo to get. There's hardly any light coming into the camera at all, as you can imagine. We're deeply, deeply, deeply well past sunset. You can see the sky. Can you see these photographs right, by the way? It's quite bright in it. Okay, good. A little bit too much light. Can we turn it down a bit? Yeah, just suddenly occurred to me. Yeah. Oh, Or go back and look at all the others. No, that's better. That's better. Look how grainy that sky looks. It's kind of like it's been stippled almost. Of course, it wasn't stippled in real life. There's little black specks, kind of, out of focus specks, and that's because you have to push the film speed. You have to artificially make the film, not film because you don't use film, but the equivalent of the film speed. You have to make it, this sensor, very, very sensitive to light to enable that to register on it. And that in itself makes all these little artifacts come in. They're not unpleasant. It's just a sign that you've had to push the camera quite a bit. Oh, and evening light is also very good for what they call rim shots, which sounds like something in basketball, but is actually getting subjects where the light picks up the rim of the subject, and it's all very lovely. We'll see more of zebras shortly. That was about bad light, one of the causes of blur. One of the other causes of blurs is subject movement, and some subjects move faster than other subjects. And birds being a particular example. We'll see some more birds soon, but anyone know what that bird is? Yeah, a roller, lilac-breasted roller, the national bird of Botswana, and I think several other African countries as well. Beautiful, it's a gorgeous bird, and there's plenty of them around. But that photograph, to freeze the wingtips, that's taken a 1/3500th of a second. So that's a very fast exposure. So you've got to get quite a lot of light in the camera very quickly to do that. In fact, this one was taken at 1/2500th of a second, and you can see the wingtips are blurred on that one. Nothing wrong, actually, with a bit of blur on them. It's because it illustrates the movement of the animal, and at least the face looks relatively clear on that. You haven't, of course, seen the other 685 photographs I took at the same time that you didn't get. And this one of this is a pied kingfisher feeding its young with a fish in its beak. There's a little orange and white fish in the beak. Oh, no, I thought I was going to show a little orange and white fish in the beak of the larger pied kingfisher. That was taken 1/8000th of a second. So you have to have really very good, enough light around that you can get that photograph with very, very, very short exposure, because these things move quick. I'm quite pleased with that one. Though it's a bit of a fussy background, but hey, you just grab it while you can. The third thing you remember was being out of focus. Now, if you look at this picture, there's no wildlife whatever in this photograph of a Namibian plain, a passing Namibian plain. But it's noticeable for the fact that the foreground is in focus, and the background, which is about 1.5 miles away, is damn nearly in focus as well. So there's a huge focal range there. Anything within that range would have been pretty well in focus with that photograph. So that's a really nice focal length. You don't have to worry too much if you're photographing like that, because everything's in focus. But once you're getting close and you're using wider apertures, much tighter. So macro photographs where you're taking pictures of very small things very close up, which is great fun, but really frustrating. They are very difficult to focus. There are techniques for dealing with it, but I'm not going to go into them today because we're not doing technical. But you can see the front eye of that bee, the right eye, is pretty well in focus, and the left eye is a bit blurred. And there must be at least 2 millimeters difference in depth between those two. And the tail of the bee, the honeybee, is well out of focus. So you can't get the whole bee into focus in a single shot. And say there are ways of doing it, but only if the bee doesn't move, and they tend to move. But I do like an insect shot. I'm getting more into them, and of course these are taken in the UK. In fact, they're taken in West Bridgford. So that's a common blue damselfly. It's just becoming into bloom around now, I think, if I remember right, damselflies. And there's plenty of them in any of the wetland reserves around Nottingham, and they're beautiful, gorgeous animals. And you can get close to them, especially in the cool of the day. So as evening's coming on, they're far less active, and they tend to just sit around than pre-event. You can even get in very close to them if you try hard, like that. But again, another 800 photographs you haven't seen. But look at that, every hair on its body. I'm happy with that. Notice also, by the way, that how out of focus the background is. Again, it's that really you cannot have a big focal depth when you're that close to a subject. You can even get them in mid-flight. That's more like 3,000 photographs I threw away. Insects don't have to be attractive to be photographed. I don't know what that is. I don't want to find it in my bed. But I just, there'll be some entomologist out there somewhere who'll be able to tell us what it is. Whatever it is, it's not nice. It doesn't look nice. And we photographed that somewhere in Africa. I can't remember where, but it's an interesting creature. Just, you got that. Local bee, my back garden. It's a hoverfly, I think. Was it a bee? You guys would know better than I do. I'm not very good at knowing animals. I just photograph them. Broken all the rules, by the way. The rule of thirds out the window there. That is a completely centered creature, but it looks right like that, doesn't it? Because it's photographed from directly on top. And I've got the same hoverfly. I think it's a hoverfly with its proboscis out, taking some nectar from a tiny little plant there as well. And it's always difficult to make out what's what, but there's a great big brown bits on either side, or its eyes, and the little fellas coming out the front are the feelers that determine whether to keep it stable when hovering. They're sensors that determine that tell it feedback to it. And again, just a bumblebee, I think, sitting on top of a flower back garden. You can do this, but you do need the kit. You can't do this. Can you do this with your iPhone? We'll talk briefly about iPhones shortly. It's amazing what you can do with an iPhone now, by the way. I have no idea, by the way, what that is or what's wrong with it, if there's anything wrong with it at all. If anyone knows, for God's sake, tell me. Found that in the garden as well. Anybody got a clue what it is? But is it wet? But what's going on its back? I guess it's a bee, but there's something going on the back there. But there you go. So yeah, small things. Don't forget the small. I've talked a lot about big animals, but don't forget small animals. So that's a Namakwa chameleon that we saw as we were walking around in Namibia. I love this photo because this chameleon is doing exactly what a chameleon is supposed to do, right? You can see it against the background. It's gone all chameleon-esque and tried to make itself look like stalks of wheat or whatever whatever it's sitting amongst there. It's got its front left hand grasping a stick there, and it's looking at you with an expression that says "bugger off." It's one. I love that. I've had plenty of surgeons look at me like that over the years. But that's more attractive than most of them. It's also quite small. They're about 8 inches long. These are very small chameleons, amongst the smallest of the chameleon species, but lovely. And on the same walk, don't forget the small stuff. That is a multi-horned adder, a Namibian multi-horned adder, and I would have trodden on it had the guide not said, "Don't move." Thank God we have guides, is all I can say, because again, it doesn't look like much. It's about 4 or 5 inches long. I think they go up to about 8 inches, as you can see, it disguises itself in the sand very, very well indeed. And I'm pleased to say, having looked at the African snakebite website, which I strongly recommend, the bite of the multi-horned adder is not fatal, but it is apparently it causes widespread necrosis and is one of the most painful stimuli known to man. So that's always good to know. And there is no anti-venom for it at all. But then the site says rather casually, "But don't worry, you won't need it," kind of thing. Just have to lie there screaming while it does its thing. So there you go. That's and you can see it's a pretty vicious looking animal, really, isn't it? Look at that. Well, it had to have a rhino, otherwise we didn't call it. I know a rhino. Right, a white rhino or black rhino? Anyone? It's a southern white. It's never going to be a northern white rhino. I think there's only 2 of them left in the world, aren't there? This is a southern white rhino. It's not called white, and I'm still not sure whether I've had this correct, but we were informed it's not called white because it's white. In fact, the skin color varies quite tremendously. It's called white because unlike its because of the black rhino, it doesn't have a pointy mouth. So the black rhino, its mouth comes down like this to like an arrowhead. This has a wide mouth, and it's called a white rhino because that's the Afrikaans word for wide. I don't know whether it's true, but it's a smaller creature than the black rhino. It's quite a skittish, and skittish is probably the wrong term for a rhino, but it feels skittish. Natalie and I, we were really very fortunate. We were taken to the location where there were a couple of these rhinos. We were not told where it was. I think we were told we were never allowed to say where it was, because they are really in trouble, and they're in trouble because of their horns. That's a very rare example of a horned rhino, because now game rangers tend to dehorn rhinos. They take the horns off the rhinos to stop them being poached. So most rhinos you'll see in the wild now, at least on game reserves, don't have horns anymore. They've been cut off. Terrible business. And this one we stalked on foot. Stalked is probably the wrong term. We approached it on foot. The little ears at the top, they're flicking like this. They hit this all the time. And the slightest sound, like Natalie stepping on a twig, and it's off like that. So you've got to approach them very carefully. But I just, what a beautiful creature, lovely thing. And rare creatures, if you see a rare creature, you photograph it. I mean, that's a crap photograph. It's absolutely terrible. I put it up there because you never see a pangolin in the wild. You just do not. I mean, it's rare as hen's teeth. And that was that our first trip to Botswana? No, I think we got there. There was a little internal flight. We got off the plane into a jeep with a guide, and suddenly the guide went completely mad. Pangolin, 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 pointing with a shaking hand like this as this thing rushed into the bush. It was the first one he'd seen in 30 years of guiding. So you just grab it while you can, really, and photograph it. And they're, of course, incredibly endangered because their scales are considered to be to serve useful medicinal purposes, mostly by the Chinese. And so they are hunted down and killed for their scales. And they're beautiful animals. They're lovely. And another rare species, or highly endangered species, the African wild dog. Now I believe there's more of them coming back. A lovely animal and very much a pack animal. So they pack down like this. They've got this lovely black and white speckled coat and legs. And they're gorgeous. And there's 3 pups there just playing around. Zebras. You can't get a bad photo of a zebra. I don't think. But I mean, because they're just there, aren't they? Not wonderful. And look at the way that one zebra blends into the other zebra there, because that apparently is why they're striped. So if you and they tend to gather in packs and herds, and a predator finds it very difficult to distinguish an individual zebra from within a pack because they all tend to blend into each other, which makes it quite difficult to target. Because if you were designing your own camouflage, you probably wouldn't do it like that because it doesn't look particularly well camouflaged. But apparently it's very effective. And they have these wonderful manes with this sort of black and white stripy business going on. And you can photograph zebras forever. They're lovely. And they're incredibly undangerous too. They also photograph very well in black and white. They convert very well to black and white, as you might expect them to, really. It'd be pretty rotten if they didn't. And again, you can see how one zebra tends to blend into another zebra there too. I could photograph zebras all day. Love them. What's that there? Oh, these are the grasslands of Namibia. I think it's in Namibia again, isn't it now? Namibia? Yeah, possibly. Just again, showing this photographic thing. This zebra's off to the side. It's looking back, so it's carrying your line of vision into the back of the photograph where those other zebras are hanging around as well, nicely blurred out. So actually, that provides a little bit of feeling of depth to the photo. And you can do quite a lot of that. Natalie and I were trying to decide before we came in this evening what of the various African antelopes these were, and we think they were springbok. We think they were springbok. But if anyone knows any differently, please tell us. But again, a lovely line of them carrying back into the photographs to make for a pleasing visual image, along with the waving grass fields of Namibia, which is so beautiful. Right, was there a suggestion it was something else? Oh, I was getting quite excited. Namibia, we do like Namibia. I have to say, Namibia is. I did it for my 60th birthday or my retirement. I can't remember which. I had a lovely guide who was related to one of the members of Med Chi. Oh my goodness, who was it? Yeah, Catherine, which is absolutely fabulous. And she's a photographer by trade as well. There's no wildlife in that photograph at all. It's just a picture of the Etosha salt pan, which extends over quite a lot of a substantial part of the country. And you can see the heat haze, the way it's affected the trees in the background. Got a lot of photographs from that series as well. And the salt pan's great because you can photograph animals like this from a long way away with nothing else around them at all. It's rather lovely. Sometimes you can photograph animals from close up, but you can't always see them. So there's an animal in this photograph. It's not immediately apparent where it might be. This was taken in Borneo. For those of you with good eyesight, that's it there. Yeah. And that is a Borneo long-nosed horned frog, sometimes known as the leaf frog for reasons that are clearly entirely apparent there. And when you see it close up, it looks like that. You can see why it really wants to disguise itself, because it's a pretty ugly bugger, really. Long-nosed horned frog. Borneo, if you don't mind leeches, Borneo's great. If you don't like leeches, don't go to Borneo. Because it's got orangutans, and oh god, they are absolutely fabulous creatures. And orangutans are another highly endangered species because the arboreal forest in which they like to live is being chopped down at quite a rate of knots. But you do see orangutans in the wild. That's a male swinging through the trees in the way they're supposed to. And that's a female who clearly enjoys eating, dribbling while eyeing up a large pile of whatever are figs, I think. It's not the prettiest of photographs. They don't always have the prettiest of species in Borneo, to be fair. Anyone know what that is? A proboscis monkey. Thank you, sir. Yes. I wonder why it's called a proboscis monkey, comes the cry. That's the male. The larger the proboscis, the more sexually attractive it is to the female. There's a surprise. And that's what it told me. That's what it told me, anyway. Speaking as a man with a big nose, I like that. And I love the fur coat as well, and the slightly knowing look in its eyes. They're very gentle creatures, and there's a lot of them around Borneo. I don't think they're found anywhere else at all. I apologise to the ladies present for the next photograph, by the way, but the proboscis monkey does the most grotesque example of monkey spreading I've ever seen. There, I know, it's horrible, isn't it? And bright red. And the beer gut. I love the beer gut as well. It's got everything going for it, that monkey, hasn't it? No doubt trying to attract females. Surely it's not. You can imagine it sitting on a train like that, can't you? The seat opposite you. Horrible. We must come on to lions, because I'm probably the big cats. I think. Yeah, the big cats are probably my favourite animals to photograph, and I love them very much. And lions are great. And that's the only photograph I've ever taken. I think it's won a competition. That one, yes, you remember? It beat you in a competition. It's the National Anaesthetic Anaesthetic Art Prize. It was called Bloody Lion. Did you come second or something? Yeah. Yeah, with a cross stitch, a really great cross stitch, and this beat it. Yeah. So I had to put that in, really, didn't I? Just to say that, actually, I mean, it can be quite mucky photographing animals in Africa. That lion is clearly enjoying a kill, but it's the tongue licking its lips that makes that photograph, isn't it? Lions, of course, they don't always look. Some of them look like that, and if you're an anaesthetist, we love that photograph. Clearly quite easy to intubate. They look more angry than they are, male lions, and this one is not roaring. This is, of course, yawning, because that's what they spend most of their life doing, while the women do all the work and go out and do the hunting. You can get the male lion roaring when it looks like that. But that lion isn't roaring because it's angry or because it's hunting prey. That lion is roaring because beneath it, carefully excised review, is a lioness. And they are mating. And when lions mate, they do it, I think they do it for the cameras really, because they mate for about a week at a time. And each mating episode lasts about 30 seconds. And then they wander around for a couple of minutes and they settle down to it again. And because they're cats, the female has some backward-facing barbs on the inside of her vagina. So when the male withdraws, it hurts. And they roar. So you just sit, if you can find, you're lucky enough to find a couple of lions mating, not always easy to find, you can sit there for days to photographs like this. And they also, it converts again beautifully to black and white, which is just, I think it's just a nice photograph. I love the scarring on that lion's nose. And it looks like it's about to take you out, but it's not. This is just really an advert for post-processing. These days, you take a photograph, and of course, you never take a photograph on a film anymore. It's always on a sensor in a modern camera, and you can bring that into your laptop, and you can then do some post-processing work on it with a whole bunch of very clever bits of software, just to alter the color balance and things, and just make them look quite interesting. Of course, people used to do this long before digital photography came along. There were darkroom techniques for doing this kind of thing as well, but it has become much, much easier nowadays, and it's lovely to be able to do it. There's another example there. Lions, for some reason, lend themselves very well to this, and these are nice portraits. I really like them. Now, I don't like photographing giraffes because you're always pointing up at the sky when you're photographing them, which is quite annoying. There's a lot of giraffes in that photograph. There's always got sky behind giraffes. Can be quite annoying. Sky can be very boring, but they are lovely animals, and you can get them without sky behind them, but you have to get them drinking. So that's how a giraffe drinks. It has to spread its legs very wide to get its neck down to the water, at which point it is considerably vulnerable to attack. So they are very, very cautious when they drink like this, because it does take them a moment to get back up again from that position. Getting close to giraffes. And if you get tick birds, tick birds are a great addition to any item of wildlife. So there's 3 tick birds riding on the back of that giraffe's neck there. That's a reticulated giraffe. Yes, I think. I can't remember the 4 species of giraffe. And there's another tick bird there on the head of that Cape buffalo. One of the big 5, the Cape buffalo, isn't it? It's one that everyone always forgets. Looking very relaxed otherwise. Birds. So yeah, we've brought a lot onto birds. Yeah. Birds are a great subject. This is from a bird of prey sanctuary. I can't remember where it was, but somewhere in the UK. Birds of prey sanctuary is great because you can get up really close to the birds, photograph them, and get some lovely, lovely shots. That's a pelican in Australia. I call that one Punky Pelican because it was unusual. And they can be quite hilarious as well. So again, broken the rule of thirds. The bird is looking directly at me. It took me quite a lot of photographs before I could get that one right. And then anyone know what that is? African it's a hornbill, I think, isn't it? But everyone knows it now as a Zazu bird because of the Lion King. That's the one that who was it who played him in the film? Sorry? Mr. Bean plays Zazu, the hornbill. But I'm going to enter that in there are animal comedy photos, and I've just fancy entering that one sometime. Animals there's a lot of animals that do like looking directly at your camera, which is very nice of them. And this is a technique where you try to whiten out the background completely to make the animal look or the subject stand out more. Quite a trendy technique now. Another one, the big 5. That's of course a leopard, and this is up there because I wanted to show you something else that you can do in post processing if you this way inclined. Animals can be quite annoying because they go behind things. So you can see there's a branch going right across that leopard's face. And in this photograph, there is no branch going right across that leopard's face. Now, if you were doing that in the old days, even 2 years ago, that would have taken me about an hour's work, maybe 2 hours work. AI has now sorted it out. You can take, it probably took me 5 seconds to do that. AI, you just put your marker around the branch, and the AI decides, oh yeah, I reckon I know what needs to be filled in when that branch goes away, fills everything in. Yeah, it's cheating. Oh, is it cheating? Yes, it probably is cheating, but it's very, very difficult now. Photographic competitions are really, really difficult now. I'm not into the whole, the philosophy of photography and photographic competitions is fascinating. And some competitions will allow this kind of thing and some won't. But it does make quite a difference. And the other thing that AI is very good at doing is at blurring backgrounds. So look at that elephant. And if I take exactly that photograph and I apply a bit of AI to it, it looks like that. And if I switch between the two, the background becomes blurred and the elephant stands out a lot more. So that's probably a more pleasing photograph than that one. And again, just done in post-processing with AI. And you can all do this. It's all really easy to do. Don't need to be a photographer to do this kind of thing. This is a really gross example of it. Again, if animals are tending young, they tend to keep them very low to the ground. And so you're always going to end up with this problem. And there's a lot of stalks and things going on there. And again, that was probably 10 minutes work. And that would have taken days in the old days to get rid of those stalks and get all the hair and everything just right. In some ways annoying, but in some ways very clever. Oh, so we're coming towards the end. I just did want to talk about kit, because somebody's going to want to talk about kit. And it's a well-known expression amongst photographers, the best camera is the one you've got with you. So if you've got a really, really, really fancy camera, but you can't be bothered to lug it around today and, oh, look, there's an interesting photograph there, that's not the camera you've got with you anymore, however good it is. It's because it's still at home. And that's really important when it comes to this kind of thing, because the bigger the camera, the more it weighs and the more bulky all the equipment that goes with it. And it's a problem with wildlife. You can get away with a mobile phone for nearly everything now, but wildlife, you particularly need to be able to zoom in to things that are often quite a long way away. And as we will see in a moment, mobile phones are getting much better at zooming than they were. They're getting much better also at that close-up stuff as well. So we are getting to the point now where you could take an iPhone 16 Pro, you could take on Safari. You wouldn't get shots quite as good as this, but you get some pretty damn good shots. And the phone has probably taken over from what was the thing that was in the middle. But if I'd have these days a system camera with multiple lenses. If you didn't want that, you'd have something called a bridge camera, which we'll see in a minute. Now it tends to be a phone. Whatever you've got, make sure you know how to use it before you go on holiday. It really, the only way to do that is to go out and take photographs. And don't forget the accessories you've got to take with you. So you always going to need more batteries than you think. You're always going to need. You need more batteries because you cannot always get access to electricity. If you live in Spain, you've got no chance. And you need to be able to charge batteries, have batteries and charge batteries as well, and take extra memory cards, because if you take one memory card, stick it in the camera, it will corrupt, and then you won't be able to take any photographs at all. Don't take a tripod if you're going to go on safari, because you're not going to be able to get out of the Jeep much and set up a camera on a tripod. But take a bean bag, so just the average, even a bag of frozen peas. Well, not frozen peas, they won't be frozen by the time you get them there, but any sort of bean bag, just rest it on the side of the Jeep on the ledge, put the camera on top of it, and it provides stability, much easier to carry around. Always have protective bags to carry things around in, because some of these places can be mucky. You're changing lenses or you're swinging around with your camera, they will pick up a lot of dirt. So lens cloth and cleaner as well. Simple stuff. I did this because it occurred to me, what you're thinking, and I know many of you are thinking, how much kit you got to carry with you. That's what I would carry with me as a basic set of tools when I'm going out to photograph wildlife. And that is a lot of stuff. There's a lot of stuff. There's 2 camera bodies. because you don't want to be continually changing lenses in dusty conditions because the dust will get inside the camera. And there's 4 lenses there, all of which are needed, I promise. 3 batteries, a couple of memory cards, battery charger, and some filters. That's quite a... And this is much lighter than it used to be, by the way. In the old days, those of you who took film in the old days with big Nikon type cameras, this stuff is smaller and lighter, but it still comes to quite a weight to carry around. And so a lot of people who are less into the kit will go for one of these. In the old days, they're still pretty good. It's called a bridge camera. It's a fixed lens, so you can't change the lens, but the lens extends to a huge telephoto length. So you can do most of the stuff, not the same quality, but you can do pretty good shots with these things as well. And they don't break the bank, whereas the other kit does. And like I said, mobile phones. I mean, that one on the left is an iPhone 16 Pro. That's got 4 lenses in it, and they are substantially good. And the one on the right is a Galaxy, one of the new Galaxies. Remarkable set of lenses now with zoom, actually proper zoom lenses in them. How they do it, I don't know. But they are very clever indeed. And they can answer a lot of your problems. So we'll finish with just a couple of shots. Getting back to cats, cheetahs, very fond of a cheetah, and that they go up trees to look for prey. So they go up a tree and then look around to see what they can see. So that's very good of them because that's very nice for photographers. And sometimes they pose for you like that as well, which is lovely. And again, you can monochrome them very effectively. And there's another leopard, I think, just to close with. Just really like a leopard, who doesn't? Oh, and as I say, you don't have to go out the country. So I took that photograph a couple of weeks ago just because I thought better take a photograph, having been, now I'm doing this lecture, take a photograph to go with the lecture, and that was just at our local wildlife sanctuary in West Bridgford. Just got to wait for the right moments. Final lion in black and white. They're just beautiful. The manes are so beautiful when you do this monochrome conversion. And if you want to see any of my photographs at all, but no reason why you should, that's the website, and you can download them in full-sized photographs for free, and then print them, get them printed yourself if you want them. Cool. So there you go. Thank you very much indeed. And I am, of course, happy to answer any questions. Software, I primarily use Lightroom. Everyone's heard of Photoshop. Everyone's heard of Photoshop, and Photoshop is a phenomenal piece of software. I can't quite get my head around. I'm not good enough or keen enough to get my head completely around Photoshop. I look at it and I get a little bit scared by it. And Lightroom, Photoshop is more about creating images. Lightroom is about handling photographs. And I have to say, Lightroom is extraordinarily good. Pretty well, everything on there was done on Lightroom.
Can I just ask, do you use a mirrorless? Are those mirrorless?
Yeah, they're all, yeah. So yeah, this is all those cameras you saw earlier are all from the Olympus system, now known as the OM system. They've changed the title for some reason. It's mirrorless, which makes them smaller, fewer moving parts as well. Which means when you look through the viewfinder, you're not looking down a mirror and then through the lens, the SLR, single lens reflex. You're looking at a sensor generated image through an electronic viewfinder. But the amount of information you get from it is far more than you ever used to get from an SLR camera. So actually, mirrorless, I'm sure, is the way to go.
You're a fan. Yeah.
I'm a big fan of mirrorless. Yeah.
Any other questions? Done them in silence. So, Helen, please.